Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to kind of an impromptu special edition of the show. We got Martin Popoff on the Zoom line. Martin, what's going on today? How are you?
How you doing, Pete? Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no problem. So, Martin and I were kind of just chit-chatting, and he let me know and let some of his folks on his Facebook page know that he got in some extra copies of this very, very fine Blue Oyster Cult visual biography book that
Yes.
I'm sure there's people out there who don't know anything about, and I wanted to kind of help Martin sell some copies and show this bad boy off a little bit, because let me tell you, if you're a Blue Oyster Cult fan, you need this gorgeous little piece of history here. Yeah. So Martin, why don't you talk a little bit about this book, what people can expect, and I'll just kind of leaf through it. And
Yeah. So I posted on Facebook like 15 minutes ago. I received the shipment that I've been waiting for about 6 weeks from my UK publisher of this book. So this is the Blue Oyster Cult Visual History. It's a large format, as you can see. It's doing a fine job of displaying it there. And it's got a big timeline in it, but I've been out of these for a long time, and I actually removed it from my site for sale, but I do have them. If people want one, just email me directly at martinp@inforamp.net or go to my Facebook and I'll sort you out. But yeah, this just came in, and I was also out of the regular Blue Oyster Cult book, Agents of Fortune. That story. I've been out of that for a while, and I got a few of those in. And the other big one that I just got in is this one that I've been out of for a long time. Born Again, Black Sabbath in the 80s and 90s. I got the Two Thin Lizzies in, but it's kind of it's kind of a bittersweet thing getting these back in again, because as Pete and I were talking about, just the shock of losing Martin Birch.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it really sucks.
So, and people have asked me, you should do a Martin Birch book. And the really sad part is that, it was probably going to happen at some point, because I had been in email contact with Martin for years. Never interviewed him in person, because I have a terrible story about that. But basically, once when I was doing the first Blue Oyster Cult book, I'd ask him a few things by email, and he would answer my emails within like an hour almost every time. So it was great, and he'd give me good answers and stuff. And then at one point he said, "Oh, I'm just going to call you." And I happened to have gone to the gym, and I missed his call. And I came back, and he had called and left me a message. So that was my one chance to get the dialogue actually going with Martin on the phone. Of course, he's in England. I'm in Toronto. But, over the years, have had lots of emails with him, and like he would give me these helpful answers. And he says, "Oh, if ever I'm going to do a book, on my life story, I'll definitely, you're the one I want to do it with," and stuff, which, probably is just being polite, because he probably knows a lot of UK journalists a lot better than he knows me. Yeah, throughout that Blue Oyster Cult book, and certainly throughout the Agents of Fortune one, which I just got, and the Black Sabbath and the White Snake and all sorts of places. I mean, the guy was just so important. Obviously, Iron Maiden, he went exclusive with Iron Maiden for all those years, and that's how. And then he retired early, I think at 43 years old or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I remember the only interview I ever read with him was this really good, insightful interview from Kerrang from years and years ago, and that's the only thing I've ever seen. And because none of us, whether myself or a UK journalist or anybody, possibly Joel McIver or whoever, I mean, a lot of people wanted to talk to Martin, and maybe somebody did. I mean, maybe we're going to find out he did do some interviews, hopefully late in life there. But and the other story to relate about Martin is I got a Facebook post just a few weeks ago of I think it was the son-in-law of a childhood school friend of Martin's who wanted to get a hold of him, hadn't seen him for years, and I hooked them up, and Martin just contacted them immediately. Was talking to them on the phone within a couple of days, it sounds like, and he wasn't like withdrawn that way. But yeah, just I guess didn't really want to, wasn't crazy about getting any actual interviews done. But yeah, just sad to say that's another one of these where what you regret the most is just having more Martin Birch out there in terms of his story and his voice over however long that would be, whether that would be an interview in a magazine or a long piece or something on the net or maybe a book. but just, you know, we're never going to hear, like I say, unless somebody has talked to him recently, and that's not out of the question, right?
Yeah.
But we're never going to hear, you know, his side of the story on all these great albums, Ready and Will.
And just imagine those stories. I mean,
yeah,
I literally for the show that I shot this morning, I had not every one of them, but I had almost every album that I own that he worked on. It's mind-boggling. I mean, it's like it's the soundtrack to my life. Basically,
yeah,
he worked
yeah.
on all those albums.
First as an engineer and stuff, and yeah. So I did an episode of my podcast. I think it's about 6 months ago now. It was one of my early ones, number 20, I think. History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. I did a Martin Birch episode, so you could check that out. That was episode 20, I think. But yeah, did that way back when. And then even then, you know, I thought, I never even thought, oh, it'd be kind of like too forward to like forward this to him and say, hey, I did an episode. So I never did. I never even told him about it. Never had a clue whether he ever got to see it. Right. It's just too bad. But yeah, you know, as you're saying, you know, Blue Oyster Cult, Cultosaurus erectus, Fire of Unknown Origin, Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell, the Deep Purple stuff, you know, Whitesnake, Ready and Willing, probably the best Whitesnake album, right?
Yeah.
And then all that Maiden stuff, starting with I guess the third album, right?
Killers, actually.
Or does he do Killers too? Yeah, he does. Okay, so he starts there and he goes all the way up to, I think it's Fear of the Dark, as the exclusive Iron Maiden guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Michael Schenk, the Salt Attack, and those bunch of those early Fleetwood Mac albums, and just like Jeff Beck, and it's like, oh, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Wishbone Ash. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just.
And one thing, you know, I remember talking about this in the episode, and because we're just kind of doing this on the fly, I haven't kind of looked it up again and sort of saw what I said about it. But you know, he had a certain production value where he wanted everything kind of in the middle, or so it seemed. Like some records were a little bit different, but yeah, for example, both Cultosaurus and Fire of Unknown Origin, they're really kind of like, and people say that when producers do this, it's because they're trying to get something that sounds good across a lot of different stereo systems and radios, right? On the radio. So they have a very, there's not a lot of bottom end, like the bass is elevated. And then even it seems like a little bit of the treble is almost cut off a little, and everything's sort of vibrant and lively in the middle. And I remember in that old Kerrang interview, he did talk a little bit about that, how you have to leave room for everything. You can't have everything competing so much so that it gets all smothered. So they had these really clean production sounds. And probably, you know, the greatest example of that out of him was the very innovative job he did on Heaven and Hell. I mean, Heaven and Hell. I
was just going to use that as an example.
Yeah, what an interesting production job that is, right?
Yeah.
You know, compared with Mob Rules, which is different.
Yeah. One of the things I talked about a lot this morning is that almost every single album that he worked on, you know, it's the band you're hearing. There's no extra. There's no more, no less. It's the band at their essence. When you compare him to, like, say, a Mutt Lange or a Bob Ezrin or some of these other guys that threw all this other stuff into the mix, right? This big, huge sound, whatever. And that's fine for some bands. But I think a lot of the bands he worked with, all those productions had a very similar type of style to the production, to the technique that he used, where, like you said, you hear everything. It's not tremendous bottom end. You don't get all this fluff and all these extra layering stuff. You hear the band.
Yeah.
And I think that I was reading somewhere this morning, they were quoting him that said, you know what, I want to help the band put on record the way they want to sound on that record. I'm not going to suggest all this extra stuff. And it's just, that's the band. Hopefully we make a record that they can go out and play those songs live the way we did them on the record. And that's the Martin Birch sound. That's just, and you look back on all those albums I look at this morning, every one of them, it's like, that's the group, the way they were meant, the way they wanted to be heard. That's the way he helped them create those albums.
And, you know, an extra thing that, you know, embedded in what you said is that the group gets to really be like the group. And there's no better example of that than Iron Maiden once you get to Peace of Mind. They basically discover their sound, and there's just this exquisite mix of personalities and frequencies, and a lot of it has to do with what Martin and Nico collaborate on in terms of a drum sound, right? So basically, they get a sound, and they kind of stick with that sound, but it's discovered on that record. It's Killers sounds different, then Number of the Beast, then Peace of Mind. But once you get to Peace of Mind, it's there. But yeah, a curious one that always does stick out to me is Mob Rules. It sounds so different than what you consider to be the Martin Birch personality, because it is a huge puffy bottom end. And you wonder if that's something that possibly, you know, Vinny insisted upon, or Martin recognized in Vinny that you are just this massive Bonham-esque drummer. And we've got to highlight you or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, big difference from that album versus Heaven and Hell. But Heaven and Hell was such an innovative, bright change. You know, it was almost, the production was almost as big as a change as getting Ronnie James Dio in was.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. This is something I wanted to bring up on the show, the tribute show I did this morning, and I just kind of completely forgot about it. Is there one band that you would have loved to have heard work with Martin on at least one album? Is there one band from that era that you think would have been a great choice to work with Martin Birch?
You know, it would have been pretty interesting to hear Saxon done with him, because he might have like changed things around, corralled them, kind of maybe dug into their songwriting a little bit more, and threw a few things out and added a few things in, and just cleaned up their sound. That I think he could have done wonders with Saxon. It's interesting. Who else? I mean, I've got no complaints about Aerosmith's productions. And, you know, you do think of them with more of these English cats, right? You know,
my choice is Judas Priest.
Yeah, that's actually a really good one too.
Like maybe around Point of Entry time period.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and Tom Allom actually does similar types of things that Martin does. That's another thing to say about Martin that I want to get in. Like, of all the people I've ever interviewed about him, no one had a bad word to say ever about, and people often, you know, grouse about their producers, right?
Yeah.
But no one ever had anything bad to say about him. I think he had just a good overall knowledge. He wasn't one of these you know, sloughers of responsibility that you get with some of these producers, right? He really helped move the jobs along, and it sounds like he had a good sense of humor, and just basically kept the project happy and moving to fruition in a you know, proper time frame kind of thing. Yeah, Judas Priest is a really good one. You know, instead of Tom Allom, you know, and possibly he would have got somewhat a similar tonal quality out of them. But yeah, I don't know, maybe better drum sound, maybe a little more crisper drum sound, because Tom Allom really went for that really wet Dave Holland drum sound.
Yeah.
Right? So
interesting to ponder. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, you know.
Dio, imagine what he would have done with
Dio.
Rules. You know, imagine if there would have, you know, you think of the Dio records, and they do somewhat sound like Mob Rules, but imagine if you would have applied to a Dio record something like a Heaven and Hell production, right?
Especially those latter 80s Dio records or the early 90s, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I mean, Sacred Heart does not sound
That's the first one that comes to mind,
Yeah. Imagine if he would have been on that, you know. Yeah. So No Cause of Death has been mentioned. 71 years old, pretty young. You know, I know he's a golfer. He is basically retired, right?
Yeah.
So it's too bad. Like I say, you know, it just means we don't get to hear extra things about all these great records from a point of view of a guy who could have had a lot to say about. That's why I like interviewing producers all the time. Like, a lot of people don't even know what the heck a producer is or what he does, right? He's not a band member, but often
he was there. He's got all the stories, right? Yeah,
a lot more to do than some of the band members, even in the band.
Right? Yeah. I think a Martin Birch autobiography would have been an absolute treat. Yeah. Well, sadly, not to happen.
Yeah, too bad. Yeah, no, he would even say, you know, even said it in that email that I posted. He said, if you're ever in England, like, let's go for a beer and all this, and just never got around to it. I think he was in the north of England somewhere, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
So Martin Birch, may he rest in peace. We love you, Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And we love you. We love you too,
Absolutely.
Martin. So go ahead and make sure you get a copy of Blue Oyster Cult, A Visual Biography by Martin Popoff. So again, the email address, Martin, for them.
Yes, martinp@inforamp.net. I'm only telling you that because I actually did remove it from my site. If you go to my Facebook, there's all the information there. And if you email me, I will email you information. But that just came in. The Two Thin Lizzies just came in. I've been out of those for a long time. Black Sabbath, like I say, this one with a bunch of Martin Birch just came in. And other things. Scorpions, Who Invented Heavy Metal just came in again. Smoke and Valves, bunch of stuff I've been out of. Yeah, there's the boys. Can't wait for their new album.
A nice rare shot of Buck playing that wild ass guitar. I forget who even made that.
Oh,
that is
wow.
You don't see too many of those. Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Looking forward to their new album. Don't like the new album cover very much. I like the album covers on those live albums lately. Those
they're very good.
Ones. Yeah, they were cool, but I don't like the new album cover of The Symbol Remains very much. It's a little bit too computer graphic-y.
Well, it's on Frontiers, right? So.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's hope the music is awesome as that last Alcatraz album that just came out,
which I haven't heard yet. I've heard the one or two songs. And it's pretty good. Yeah.
I just reviewed the Purple Whoosh album for Banger, and that's gotten over 100,000 views in 3 days.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
There's a lot of eyes on that new Purple. I've gotten asked like a million times in the last 2 days. They're like, "When's your Deep Purple review coming?" Because Martin already did his, and I'm like, "Well, I'm waiting for my physical copy because I like to show the physical copy."
People say that in the comments of the Banger review. I want Pete's review now. Yeah.
See that? Well, they're going to be asking for you. Well, you got to bring Martin back on the show, and both of you review it. It's like whatever works. Yeah. Actually, you know what? A lot of people have asked for. They want, once the new album comes out, because I've already done a ranking the albums of Deep Purple. I've had a lot of people ask for a redo of the ranking with the new album included, with you by my side. So something to think about.
Yeah,
whether we want to do the whole catalog or just do like the Steve Morse years or whatever. I'm open to it.
Cool. Yeah. I'm up for that. Awesome.
Sounds good. All right, guys. So there you have a little impromptu middle of the afternoon chat with Martin and myself. So visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're here on YouTube all the damn time. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And go get yourself that new Blue Oyster Cult book. Pick up the Black Sabbath. Martin's got all sorts of good stuff in stock, so check it all out. And Martin, I will see you Friday.
All right.
AC/DC Deep Cut Dive. Yes.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, guys. Later. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.